Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé. Let's watch.
Spend wisely, okay? We don't need to turn the house into like this.
Why?
Because it's too much.
Boy's excited. Connie's excited,
Yeah,
right?
come on. You want to save money.
Daniel, don't let mommy ruin our fun. Let's go. Let's go get this stuff, my boy.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so maybe they'll turn this around, but this is something that's been happening for a long time, where Daniel is being triangulated in very thoroughly into the conflict between Tiffany and Ronald. So the situation is that Tiffany doesn't know if she wants to stay in South Africa through Christmas. In fact, I'm pretty sure she doesn't want to stay. So he wants them to stay beyond Christmas and through Christmas. And Daniel, I think, wants to have Ronald and Tiffany together, but I don't think he wants to be in South Africa. He's talked about in previous seasons or earlier this season where he didn't feel very safe in South Africa, and so he wants to be in the States. He wants Ronald to come to the States. Anyway, so they go in to this place, and they're going to shop for Christmas decorations. On one hand, Tiffany is thinking, well, it might be nice to have some Christmas decorations, but we have a budget. I think what Tiffany is saying is, I have a budget. I don't think Ronald budgets at all. That's the way it seems to come across anyway. Maybe we don't understand. I'm sure we don't understand the nuances of their finances from the TV show. But anyway, Ronald is saying, hey, let's buy a bunch of stuff, mainly because he wants to please Daniel, because he wants, I think he literally even said that of, I want to convince Daniel to stay, and then Daniel will convince Tiffany to stay. So on one level, there's nothing terribly wrong with Daniel understanding a little bit about the conflict or the debate about whether to stay or to go. But to use him as the communication device or the pawn in your game with each other, what is optimal? Is Tiffany and Ronald have a conversation away from Daniel and say, hey, what's our plan? Are we staying in South Africa or are we not? What are the stipulations? Okay, we're going to this Christmas place. How much are we as a couple going to budget for this? Because here is the money coming in. Here is the money going out. Here is the money we have that is extra. Do we want to blow all that on Christmas decorations? If we, as a couple, want to do that, then we will do it. But so often what couples will do, because they don't trust each other to have those kind of conversations, or they've never had that modeled to them, that they will just blow through it, and then they will try to negotiate through emotions and sometimes through triangulation of children. Now, the damage to a child is severe. If any of you have been in that experience, let me know in the comments below, being the go-between and the triangulated third in your parents' conflict. The damage can be severe. One is that it causes the child to believe that they're responsible for their parents doing well or not doing well, because they partially are, because the parents have put them in that position. That is a huge burden. Daniel wants his parents to get along, but he also has no power over any of that stuff. So if they don't get along, he will blame himself. And that is a huge blow. It's one thing to blame yourself, like, my friends aren't getting along. It's another thing when you're parents, and at this age particularly, you really need your parents to get along. You really depend on that. It's very important. And for Daniel to believe, because we know that Tiffany and Ronald are going to have conflict in the future, we could predict it, that when Daniel sees that conflict, he is going to say, I wasn't a good enough boy. And children will have very strange ideas about how they contributed to the conflict that any outsider would say, that doesn't make any sense, but it'll become totally ingrained in them. I've talked to 55-year-olds who were completely convinced that they were the reason why their parents broke up when, the child was like 4 years old. And I'm like, you realize it had nothing to do with you. I mean, you might have been a slight factor, but certainly you didn't have any power over the situation. You were 4 years old. You were 10 or 12 or however old Daniel is. So it gives them that impression that they're responsible, and then when things go badly, then they are upset. The other thing is it takes away a child's childhood. You take away, and I think that Daniel has had his childhood taken away for a long time, because he has signs of it in that he talks in a very mature way, and he's very kind and caring towards his mother. Now, I'm not sure about that because we don't have enough information. So and I remember seeing some behavior, the dynamic between Tiffany and Daniel seemed to be like maybe there was some parentification and some loss of childhood, but also Tiffany seemed to be able to say, Daniel, that's not, you don't need to worry about that. But of course, I think that boundary is being lost in this situation. So what's wrong with losing your childhood, so to speak? Well, children who lose their childhood will resent it severely. It's very hurtful to them. They feel like they're doing big boy chores in a little boy body, and they will be very angry, they'll be very hurt, and they will retain that pain throughout their life. They will also sometimes adapt by becoming very people-pleasing and by being very aware when other people are upset and trying to manage that and not taking care of themselves. Another negative effect of putting a child in between is it's just extremely stressful. I mean, it's stressful for me to watch these two fight all the time. Can you imagine being in Daniel's position? It's very demoralizing. It's very stressful on the mind and the body and can cause a lot of problems there too, with nightmares, sleep problems, school problems, health problems, all sorts of problems. And I've seen that before as well. So hopefully they're heading into the situation. Maybe they'll adjust and they'll talk. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for Tiffany and Ronald to talk with each other, work out what they're going to do instead of using Daniel as a pawn in their conflict.
4950, but it's quality.
You're looking at around $300, more or less $320.
This is so much more expensive than they are in America. Baby, there's no way. That's so much money.
That's so big.
Let's go with this one. It's not so bad. Once we decorate it, it'll be fine. This one's a lot cheaper.
So I don't know if you heard that, but they were debating about the expensiveness of the tree, which they're doing it together, which is good. But then we see Daniel actually saying things too. He's like, yeah, that's too expensive. It's just a sign that Daniel is trying to manage and thinking, what we would want Daniel to be doing would be not even paying attention to his parents' conversation. He would just be playing with a toy and be like, that's what we would want. But Daniel's, I think, very in tune with what is happening in the parental environment, the parental emotional environment and the decision making, which isn't a good sign.
That one's 4,000, this one's 5,000. Same thing.
But this one already has the lights in it. That one, it's a bigger tree, so you need more ornaments to cover the whole thing. This one, you don't need as many ornaments.
Beautiful.
You're putting me in a bad place because I don't want to come off as the bad guy who's ruining Christmas just because I have a smart budget.
Right. I think that's another factor here, possibly, that Ronald is trying to gain points with Daniel by siding with him, by pleasing Daniel, even though the parents don't have the money, they can't afford it. And that's also not a good sign of, I feel like, you're in Ronald's position, you're just like, I don't feel secure in my relationship with my family, so I'm going to use this tactic and ostracize someone in the process, otherize someone, so I can bond with Daniel. And ultimately, I don't think it's going to work. I mean, I think Daniel just loves Ronald for who he is because he's, a fun stepdad, or, stepdad. And I don't think Ronald has to buy his way into Daniel's heart, which, I'm beginning to wonder also if, especially in this scene, Ronald has some kind of thing around money. Obviously he does because he had a gambling addiction. And I wonder what kind of complexes he has around money based on his childhood. I don't know. But he seems to be really intent right now on spending money to get his family to stay, when in reality it's the opposite. If he wants his family to stay, he needs to show that he can budget. And he knows that Tiffany wants that. But this is what defenses do to us. They shoot us in the foot.
You're out there spending who knows what. Everything you want, you grab it. Since when is that how we do things?
I just want to make it feel like Christmas for you guys.
To make it harder for him to want to leave.
Yes.
That's unfair to me.
Daniel, watch your...
But the whole premise of that is off. That the two of them believe that they are vying for Daniel's approval one way or the other. That whole premise is just completely not a good premise. Ronald believes that clearly. Like, if I really impress him with the Christmas time, he'll want to stay, or we'll be one step closer to staying in South Africa, which doesn't seem like a likely thing. It doesn't seem like, oh my God, Christmas was amazing, let's move to South Africa, even though we don't want to do that. I don't see that happening. But then Tiffany kind of goes along with it too. She's like, you're trying to do that, and it's unfair to me because you're trying to win him over. Tiffany should be going, dude, do not involve my son, your stepson, in our conflict. You and I will have conversations about whether I stay or go. Talk with me about it. Let's work it out. Let's establish the thing. Do not think that let's say you do sway Daniel. I'm the one who makes the decision about our family, not Daniel. So do not work through Daniel. So we hear this sort of family rule that if you can work through Daniel, then that does provide points going in one direction or another, which again gives Daniel way too much responsibility, which can be crushing to a child.
Coco, you want big, right?
I want puffy and big like that.
I need to give my son what he wants.
So annoying.
And at this point, of course, Daniel is picking up on the conflict between the two of them. He's picking up on the fact that stepdad wants me to agree with him emotionally. And it's not just, asking me what I want. I now have to say, what do they want me to want? And that's what happens to triangulated kids, is they put off what they want. Because no one seems to be paying attention to what they really want, what the child really wants. What the parents are doing is saying, side with me. Essentially, that's the emotional message that Ronald is particularly doing right now, which is, you're on my side, right? It's you and me against mommy, right? We're the fun people. Mommy's the bad guy. You're with me, right? So for Daniel, he's like, I don't want my dad to not like me, so I'm going to go with him. But I also don't want my mom to not like me. So what do I do here?
I did tell you, don't go overboard.
Daniel, we can get the small tree, which looks like asparagus. We can get the big tree that looks like Christmas.
I just wish we could spend a little less money.
Okay.
You don't want the asparagus one.
But I do want you to be happy, so pick what you want.
Yikes. I mean, this is a small thing. It's just a Christmas tree. But we see, I'm going to rewind this. This is awful to watch. So you even see the distress in Daniel's eyes. You see him like, well, yeah, I kind of want the big tree. But I know mom doesn't want the tree. I know Ronald wants me to say the tree. I kind of want to say mom because I feel like Daniel understands. He's like, no, I don't think we can afford the big tree. But if I say the small tree, the asparagus tree, as Ronald's putting it, then what kind of consequences are there? It's a no-win situation for this child. But let's rewind this. This is genuinely disturbing to watch.
I did tell you, don't go overboard.
Daniel, we can get the small tree, which looks like asparagus. We can get the big tree that looks like Christmas.
I just wish we could spend a little less money.
Okay.
You don't want the asparagus one.
But I do want you to be happy, so pick what you want.
I like it.
This one.
Okay.
So you see that he's like, this one, he doesn't know what to do. Now, good on Tiffany, I think, for just cutting her losses and being like, okay, that's what you want, let's get it. Instead of, why did you choose that one? Which is probably what Ronald would do. So, yikes. And we've seen this happen in the decision to move to South Africa. So I'm just going to take a guess and say that this kind of triangulation is happening all the time, which is not good for Daniel at all. And not good for the parents, honestly, because it doesn't give them a chance to actually sit down and say, okay, let's be adults, let's be mature, let's talk amongst it, let's be on the same team, let's work together.
Don't you make that face at me. We'll get it.
I didn't want to spend too much money because I didn't want my mom to feel bad and she was stressed about my dad. So I really wanted to get the green tree, but the white one looked cool. So I was like, I'm so sorry, Mom. I had to do it.
Right. Again, it's just a tree, but it's the emotional life and the microcosm of the triangulation that's happening in this family system. So you hear that dilemma, you hear it in his voice. He's like, yeah, I'm sorry, Mom. I wanted the tree and I wanted to please Dad. Dad wanted the tree. Sorry, Mom. Why would you put a kid in a situation like that? They should have, so what would be best case scenario? They say, best case scenario, the parents have a conversation away from Daniel. They say, here's our budget. We can spend $250 in the store. Okay. You go into the store and you start shopping around, and then you can debate, like, do we buy this with the $250? Do we buy that with the $250? And maybe you ask Daniel, hey, we have this amount of money in the budget. Would you rather get that or would you rather get that? If we get that, we can only get minimal ornaments. If we get the asparagus tree, we can get a lot of other things. What do you want, Daniel? And then Daniel can choose, and he'd be like, okay, great. And the parents can go either way. Instead, they put him in the middle. They made him choose between two evils. And it doesn't surprise me that he sided with Ronald. It's a frequent thing, and it's something that I've seen clinically a lot, is when you had a single parent or when you had a good bond between one parent and child, and you had another parent who either was in and out of the home or a new parent or something, the child will sometimes villainize or scapegoat their good parent so they can bond with the other parent. Because for them, it's the lesser of two evils. They know they can depend on their bonded parent. They know they can depend on that person for the most part. But they don't know they can depend on the other person. For Daniel, I'm guessing he doesn't know he can depend on Ronald, but he does know he can depend on Tiffany. And so if Daniel disappoints Tiffany, he knows that Tiffany will still be there for him. He doesn't know that about Ronald, so he sides with Ronald. And this can create a very dangerous triangulation where the child might even delusionally believe that their other parent is better than their bonded parent. And of course, the bonded parent, the Tiffany's of the world, will feel very terrible about themselves because their child is now scapegoating them. So there seems to be at least the seed of that to potentially grow. Who knows what will happen, though.
My dad convinced me. These ones will be good.
So your total, it's 10,093 rand.
Okay.
What is that in US dollars?
It's like $680.
Oh my goodness.
I have my credit card, so no worries.
Wow. $680 on one-time Christmas decorations that the family might not even be able to be in town to share in and enjoy because the mom has said she's going back home. And he couldn't afford a plane ticket to the United States, which I'm guessing would max out at about that amount of price, maybe $1,000. I don't know how much it would cost to fly from South Africa to wherever she is. So he's just dropping, and wow. I mean, yeah. I don't know the situation, but it does sound like he has a spending and budgeting issue. I wonder if this is tied into his gambling addiction. I don't know. Because sometimes gambling addicts will also have compulsive spending problems. Because sometimes the gambling addiction is actually based on this notion of trying to gain solvency financially. And you're always chasing that dragon and never catching it. And so maybe he really wants to seem like a big dog with a lot of money, and this is his way of doing it while he's completely financially shooting himself in the foot. My impression of Ronald's income and of the economy in South Africa is that $680 is maybe 10 or 20 times that of what it would be in the States. So I don't know, but on equivalency issues, I think he's spending the equivalency of like $7,000 on Christmas decorations. And I don't think his employment, is he even employed, or his employment isn't going well? Wow, this is interesting.
But I know he's going to have a really hard time paying that off. With Ronald's history with the gambling and having so much debt, it just shows me once again that his spending habits are not good. I know he wants to get us to stay for Christmas, but it's not working. Like, if he keeps making these stupid decisions, that's not gonna happen.
Right, that's what I was saying, is that your defense of, so what could it be like? Who knows? But the foundation of it could be, I'm worthless, no one's gonna love me unless I have a lot of money and spend a lot of money. And then, so that's the schema. And then you proceed to spend a lot of money and lose a lot of money and try to get a lot of money quick and not get a lot of money quick, but you're desperately trying to get people to love you by earning a lot of money. But the opposite happens, where people actually don't love you and don't want to be with you because of your frantic efforts to get money and your mismanagement of money. This is what maladaptive schemas do for us. Another common one is we are abandoned, and we learn that unless we chase people, they will abandon us. And so you learn that because it was happening when you were young. Your father would be in and out of the house, and so you would chase him emotionally, and you would get a little bit more love and attention from him before he would abandon and come back. Then later on in life, you had the schema that unless I chase, unless I demand, I will not get my needs met. And then you come across people in your life and you chase and demand, and are preoccupied attachment, and people actually move away from you because of the demands and the overwhelming energy that they're getting from you. And the maladaptive schema and the coping of that schema actually causes more abandonment. This is, I'm just giving 2 examples of thousands of defenses that will shoot us in the foot sometimes, and it seems like Ronald might be a candidate for that.
I don't know why Tiffany goes to my mom to talk about our relationship issues. Makes me upset just thinking about it. I mean, communication is the #1 thing in a marriage. If there's no communication, there's going to be arguments. If there's arguments, there's going to be fights. If there's fights, there's going to be a divorce.
Right. And if there's fights, then there's no communication because you worry that there's going to be a fight if you communicate. So now I will say that the conversation on the scale of things for the two of them went fairly well. He was saying, don't go behind my back and talk to my mom about our problems. I don't like that kind of talk because it basically tells her that she can't talk to other people about anything, which is not a good idea. But he started to cry a little bit. I think he could have said, I'm crying because it hurts me that you would do that. It feels like you don't trust me. He has a hard time with vulnerability, I guess, and so he didn't say that. But he did communicate it with the tears. And he didn't get too hostile about it in the moment. Then she says, okay, I'm sorry, but if you want me to tell you things directly, I need to know that you're not going to shut me down. And so she's asking something that's great, that is helpful. Now, he could say, okay, I'll work on that. So, because I do want you to tell me things. I don't want you to talk to my mom about things. And if it means that I need to be more inviting or not shutting you down, then I'll do that. Yeah. Let's see if he says that.
Damn, I'm by fights section already. So what's next? I'm going.
You just ruined my night.
Go.
All right. So I think he has a bigger emotional issue and more relational traumas than what I thought in the beginning. I think his relational traumas run so deep that he hides them extremely effectively, even from the cameras. And now I'm worried that he's going to go use, or he's going to do something compulsive, like gambling or spending or over drinking or something. I think this with. I don't know at what stage of recovery that he is in. I know he's been through a lot of recovery, and kudos to him for that, but I don't think he is fully recovered. In this moment, this is a key moment that he should be talking. He should be calling his sponsor right away, if he even has one. All right, well, that does it for that episode. If you didn't know, I'm on Cameo. If you want me to send a happy birthday message, happy anniversary message or something to someone, you can go to Cameo and I'll send a message. It's kind of fun for me. Also, we have merch, and we're always making new merch. The Pod Wife is always designing new merch, so you can click the link below to get T-shirts and mugs and that sort of thing. I actually really like their T-shirts. No joke. Their T-shirts are actually pretty comfy, and I'm pretty particular about my T-shirt thickness and feel. Anyway, everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.